Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's been a while, and I know I find myself saying that in almost every video now. I just took a break last time. I it's a little crushing. I'll upload a 40-minute video. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'll get like 2 views. And now with YouTube Studio, I can see how long people really lasted, and it was like a minute. But I don't know. I got this video idea, and because I wasn't planning on uploading anything for a while, but I figured I'd upload something. I got this really cool video idea, and I just kind of wanted to put it out there. If for nothing else, just to talk to myself. I got nothing else to do today, so why not? But if you've read the title, you'll know what this is going to be. This is a top 15 books of 2019 list. Now, you might be looking at the book that's on screen and saying, man, I don't know what that book is. I don't recall that coming out in 2019. Or you know exactly what it is, and you're like, man, that came out several years ago. And yep, I'm going to start this off with 2 honorable mentions of books that I found in 2019 that didn't necessarily come out in 2019. The other one is, the one I'm showing just a little bit, is still going on, but issue 19 is about to come out this Wednesday. It started last March, and I've just now really gotten into it. I heard it was incredible, and it's been optioned, and my local comic shop had it. It had issues 2 through 6, and I ended up picking up the first one off eBay. So figured I'd give it a try, but we'll get to that in a second. Anywho, this book is called 10 Grand. It came out in 2014. It is an image book. As you can see, it is by J. Michael Straczynski and Ben Templesmith on art. Now, Ben Templesmith is an insanely talented artist. I love his style. His style is just perfect and gritty and awesome. He hasn't done too much. I think it was last year or a few months ago he launched his own indie self-owned book that I think he wrote and drew, and it looks really interesting. So if you're interested at all in what I say here, feel free to check him out. Or if you have heard of him and you had no idea he was doing that, by all means, go over there and give him some support. But anyway, 10 Grand. Oh, and first off, I'm going to start off by saying this is going to be a longer video. I have 15 books that I'm going to go somewhat in-depth into talking about why I think they're my favorite, because there was a lot of good books. But I'll get more into that in a second when I start going over my main list. But 10 Grand is basically this guy. If you've ever read The Crow or Spawn, it's very similar in that vein. In that the main character, he works as kind of an enforcer, and he goes to rough up this guy and whatever, and turns out this guy is summoning demons, and he sends the demons after the guy. The guy runs home to his wife, and before he can even tell her to run or anything, the demons come in and just decimate both of them. An angel comes in and basically tells him, look, you've been a piece of shit your whole life, and your wife hasn't. So either you're going to hell and she's going to heaven and you're never going to see each other ever again, or I can bring you back and you can spend the rest of forever atoning for your sins and making things right. And every time you die in the process, we will bring you back. But every time you die, you can have 5 minutes with your wife. And it basically goes on a journey about him trying to set things straight and atone for his sins to try and be back with his wife. It is, it's incredible. The art shifts, I think, around issue 4 or 5, but, I mean, the art's still incredible. And Ben Templesmith, I believe he's doing the covers throughout, even though he stops doing interiors, like I said, I think around issue 4. But, and the story is just incredible. So, if you get a chance, I was able to pick up the first 10 issues from my local for $20, and then looking for the 11th and 12th, because it is 12 issues. If you saw my pickups from a few weeks back, I showed this off, but I was able to pick up all 12 issues off of eBay for like $6-7. So definitely worth a pickup if you can find it. And my last and second honorable mention came out last year, and that is Gideon Falls. Now, this book was optioned for a TV show. If that's going to go anywhere, I don't know. I just know that's put a lot of hype around the first issue. As you can see, I only have the second. Like I said, I did order the first off of eBay for $16. I was going to hold off because I did end up reading the first issue online, so I could at least read this one, and I have my LCS holding issues 3 through 6 for me, which is basically the first volume or the first arc. And this is by Jeff Lemire, and he is currently doing another book that I will show on this list, which I really enjoy. And I was like, you know what? I've heard this book is incredible. At the time, I didn't know it was optioned, but figured I'd pick him up. And I mean, like I said, issue 2 and all the way through 6, I've picked up for cover price, which, come to find out, because I was just going to get issue 2, but issues 2 through 6 are worth a little bit more than cover price now. So I just called him up and had him hold the rest for me. Like I said, the first issue, it's coming from Canada. I bought it for $16, which I decided to jump on because it's normally around $30 or $40. But I didn't want to wait another few weeks for it to come from Canada. So I figured I'd make it now. It's issue 2. Basically, if you haven't heard, again, it's another book by Image. Image has been killing it. Granted, they come out with like 30 new IPs every month, but it can be worth it to shift through all those garbage books that Image puts out every month to find one really, really good one. And this is one. Like I said, it's still going on now. Issue 19 is about to come out, and I'm not super caught up with it. Like I said, I've only read up to issue 2. So, yeah. Basically, this guy, like I said, if you haven't heard about Gideon Falls, well, first off, it's Jeff Lemire's, it's his penultimate book. This is something he's been wanting to write for almost his whole career at this point. And Jeff Lemire he's just going off, and it's incredible. First off, before I even say anything about the book, if you get the chance, even to read it online or whatever, read it. At the very least, read it, buy it, whatever. Buy the paperbacks, buy a hardcover, I don't care. Read it. You're not going to regret it. But, yeah, this guy, he's obsessed with searching through the garbage in the city because he believes that there are items of importance in the trash. And he ends up finding out through a vision or a dream that he is collecting pieces to a black barn. And his psychiatrist, of course, thinks he's nuts because he sounds nuts, and she wants to have him recommitted. So apparently he's been in an institution before, and they let him out to be able to live on his own, but now she's not so sure. And she ends up seeing things that might make her believe that he's not as crazy as he sounds. And then we have another aspect to the story of a priest who's coming to replace a prior one who had died under mysterious circumstances. And I know I don't want to give it away, but I mean, all this happened in the first issue. But he wakes up one night and finds the supposedly dead priest or pastor that he came to replace, telling him to follow him, that he doesn't have long. He'll know he's gone. So first off, who is he? Second off, I thought you were dead. But the guy just runs out, and I mean, the new guy has no choice but to follow him. Follows him out into wheat fields, sees a black barn, and in front of the black barn is the previous priest's assistant, who he had met earlier in the day, murdered. And of course, he's prime suspect number 1. And yeah, it makes for a really interesting, like I said, I I wanted to put this in my top 15, but I felt like that'd be cheating since it's not technically a 2019 book. So, like I said, if you get the chance, you're not going to regret it. Read these books. Like I said, I'm going after the single issues just because I was able to get issues 2 through 6 by themselves, and there are certain books I just like having single issues more than trades. But even if you can get the trades, by all means. Alright, that will do it for my honorable mentions. Now, getting into my top 15. Now, these are in order from my least favorite to my favorite. A couple warnings going into it. Like I said, it's already been 10 minutes and I've only discussed 2 books, so this is going to be a longer video. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but if it does get too long, I might just have to make this more than one video. So, yeah. Again, these are not the only books I've liked this year. This actually was an incredibly hard list to make because, honestly, I've been collecting comics my whole life, and this is the most excited I've ever been about collecting comics. These books are just incredible, and there's so many more I could go off about. So if you're watching this, don't in the comments go, oh, why isn't Punisher Soviet on this list? You're a fake Punisher fan. No, I loved Punisher Soviet, I loved Morbius, I loved Ghost Rider, but at the end of the day, I can't put every single book on my pull list on here because I love just about every book on my pull list, and I have a lot of books on my pull list, so I'm limiting it to 15. And if you see a book on here that maybe you thought deserved to be on here, or a book on here that you didn't think deserved to be on here, let me know in the comments. But also keep in mind, this is my list, strictly my opinion, and hopefully you'll see maybe some books on here you had never heard about, because these are not all just DC or Marvel, although there is a strong showing from DC. There's also some indie books in here, so hopefully you can learn a thing or two. If you haven't already, maybe you haven't heard of 10 Grand or Gideon Falls, and now you have something to add to your reading list. Alright, and I'm sure there's a lot of books on here, especially indie books, that are incredible that I just haven't gotten a chance to read yet. There's a few books like Electric Black from Scout Comics I really wanted to read, but haven't gotten a chance to yet, and the year's winding down. And honestly, it doesn't look like I'm going to have room in my budget to add any other books. So, like I said, feel free. Indie books are killing it right now, so definitely keep those in mind. Don't just stick to DC or Marvel. And with that said, let's go into it. Without further ado, and like I said, if you see a book low here on the 15s, that's not because it's a bad book. That's just because there are so many good books on this list that some of them are incredible books, but they just aren't my favorite. These are all my favorites, just not my favorite. So keep that in mind. Alright, with that said, number 15, we have Batman Last Night on Earth by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Supposedly the last book they will be working on together regarding Batman. Whether that's true or not, I doubt it. Never say never when it comes to comics. Especially, look at wrestling. CM Punk's back. Who the hell thought that was going to happen? Never say never. But anyway, this is actually a variant cover for issue 1. Gorgeous cover by Jock, because of course it is, because Jock is, oh my god. Anyway, written by Snyder, who is coming off of, Lord, Batman New 52, Black Mirror, another book that I'm going to be showing in here, along with Blackest Night, no, not Blackest Night, Lord, Dark Knight's Metal, and these are just awesome. These are square-bound books, thicker, they're very beautiful. I think they're $7 a piece, I want to say. It's either 6 or 7, but I'm leaning towards 7. But this issue came out a while ago, and it's only 3 issues, and it's still not over yet. Mainly because issue 3 was supposed to come out last month, but got pushed back a month. So it's been 3 months now since the last issue, and we're finally getting the wrap-up for it. But basically this is a thing of Batman wakes up in a mental institution in Arkham, led to believe that his Batman persona was a lie, and you got to find out what the hell's going on, basically. I'll go a little bit further than that. Turns out that was just a whole ruse of Batman. It starts off with Batman being shot, modern day, and then going into the future with Batman being in Arkham. So it's like, oh, was he just woken up or what? But yeah, apparently this centers on a clone of Batman, which, if you remember in the New 52, it was a protocol set up so the world would always have a Batman. And that whole thing was a dream of Batman can either live a happy life or he can be woke up again to become Batman again. And of course, every time he's going to be Batman. So, yeah, now the world has been taken over by a evil overlord that dresses like Batman. And it's like, okay, what the hell is going on here? So, yeah, issue 2, we still don't know. So issue 3 is probably going to wrap it all around, and knowing Snyder, it's probably going to be badass and unexpected, but in the most beautiful way. Awesome art, of course, Capullo. Oh my god, he's gorgeous. From his Spawn work to his Batman work. Oh my lord, he is incredible. And of course, Snyder, you can't get much better with Batman. He gets Batman. And in my opinion, he's the best Batman writer of all time. And I'd like to think I wouldn't get much flack for that. Moving on. Trying to keep it rolling here. A book from DC. Now, keep in mind, this list was incredibly hard to make strictly because there's so many different genres in here that I had to balance, and some of them are so different and I like in different ways. So ultimately, I could rearrange this, but this is just the list I'm going off of. So you're going to see a genre switch every now and then. And this is the first one. So we're going to be going into Dollhouse Family at number 14, which is a Hill House book. It's the second one that has come out. And it's being... basically, Joe Hill is the crypt keeper for this Hill House imprint for DC under the Black Label. It's an imprint under an imprint. Imagine that. But we started off with a book I'll show a little bit later. Now we've gone into this. We're about to go into Lolo Woods, which I don't have high expectations for. Then the one I'm probably most excited about coming out in January, Daphne Byrne, and then Plunge coming out in February. And they say that that's it for now. Whether they're going to keep going or not, I don't know. Unless you're not, in case you're not aware, Joe Hill is not new to comics. He's been doing comics for quite a while now. And if you aren't aware, again, Joe Hill is the pseudonym that Stephen King's son uses so that he isn't going off of the King name. He can make his own name. And my God, has he made his own name. He's currently doing Lock and Key under Image, I believe, which has been going on for quite a while now, and that's kind of his baby. And yeah, if you ever see Joe Hill on a comic book, now you know. Try it out. It's going to be really good. Joe Hill is awesome. But Dollhouse Family, like I said, is the second book. It deals with child abuse in a way, in that the father abuses the mother, and the daughter gets kind of caught up in the middle of it, and she just wants to escape. So when a relative that they've never heard of sends this insanely detailed dollhouse, the father wants to sell it, but the note says specifically that it's for the daughter. So the dad gets mad and whatever, but it's like, he's reasonable enough and says, all right, well, it's already hers, so. And one day she just kind of wants to escape. She's crying because she knows her mother's getting beat, and of course it's the father of, oh, you're making me do this, you just like me hitting you. So if you can't take like The Shining or things like that that are heavy into a child's aspect of domestic violence, it's a heavy subject matter, and I wouldn't recommend you read it, which is why it's under the Black Label and has the ages 17 and up, because this is heavy subject matter. But the art's incredible, the writing is second to none, and so far, the Hill House books are bringing it, man, I'm telling you. So definitely check this out if you get the chance. Oh, Lord, I went off track. But, yeah, she comes in crying, and the people from the dollhouse come out and tell her to come join them. She's like, I'm sorry? You're tiny. I can't fit in there. She's like, nonsense. And she makes her repeat something, and she shrinks down to the size of the dolls. And everything seems fine and dandy, but there's a room in the house that no one's allowed to go into. And she ends up going into it, and yeah. I think has issue 2 come out? I don't think it has. Issue 2 is going to be coming out maybe this week, I think. But yeah, great book if you can get it. And yeah, don't want to stray too long onto that. So moving right along, because we're already getting at a pretty long video. Yeah, this is probably going to have to be 2 parts. But moving along, as I mentioned earlier, Jeff Lemire, who's working on Gideon Falls, has also started a Black Label book. This being a Prestige Plus format, so it's that beautiful, not quite magazine size. I've heard some people compare it to a British record size, which, okay, I don't have experience with that, but if you do, that's what people are saying it's the size of. But beautiful size, beautiful format. The art is just incredible. This is the regular cover. I do have the variant, but for the sake of brevity, I just wanted to show the covers that I like most for these books that I have. This basically, we hear stories all the time about what Joker does to psychiatrists and how he makes them go insane and what have you. And the only real person that we've seen their side of is Harley Quinn. So this book takes the perspective of one of his psychiatrists that he drives insane, maybe. We don't know he's going to yet, but he's working on him, I'm telling you. But the Joker's able to influence the psychiatrist's life. And I'm not going to ruin anything because I can't talk about how he ruins his life because that's this whole issue and that's all that's come out so far is just the first one. I think the second issue comes out next week. But Jeff Lemire's writing is just on point. And the psychiatrist, he has a wife and a kid, and he claims that he's never going to bring his work home with him or what have you. But the Joker's finding his way to work around that. And that's all I'm going to say. This is an incredible book. Art's beautiful. Writing is incredible. And if you can get your hands on this book, I know my LCS still has some copies, pick it up. I believe it's $7, but you're getting a double-sized issue. That's the Prestige Plus format. Black Label, buy it. Just, you will not regret it, trust me. Now, moving along to the next book, another Prestige Plus format book. That again, we're only on the first issue. Some of these I try to prioritize, so if there were only one-shots or single issues, I wouldn't include them. But some of these, just the first issue was good enough to warrant putting them on this list. And this is another one of those. Another, like I said, Black Label Prestige Plus book. The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, #1 by, you guessed it, Jeff Lemire. He is killing it. And of course we have art by Bill Sienkiewicz and Dennis Cohen, who worked on the older run of The Question. Man, this book is nuts. If you aren't familiar with The Question, he's basically a detective that wears a faceless mask, but he's also a reporter. And he tries to basically detect things as detectives do, and whatever he finds out, he reports on in the news. And he basically tries to take crime out by making it open to the public and whatever he can do behind the scenes. But in this one, his investigations lead him to this what is it, like an old man's club. I know that's not what it's called, but it's something like that. And he goes to their old hideout and finds in the basement faceless masks on skeletons with a bullet hole in the forehead. And he ends up going to his old mentor and just like, what the hell is going on? And he says, "You want to find out? Fine. Here you go." Puts the mask on him, and he's thrown into the Old West. Now, of course, that's an oversimplification and ignores other side stories going on, but this book is incredible. The artwork, like I said, is beautiful. The writing is awesome. If you see this book, if you've heard the hype about it but you're still unsure, I'm here to tell you it's warranted. This book is awesome. I've been looking forward to this since it was announced, because I've always loved the question and the idea of the question, but he never really gets done justice in comic books. I don't remember the last time he had a series. So when I heard this was coming out, I had to get it, and I don't regret it. This is actually a continuation as well of the 80s series that Alan Moore worked on. No, Denny O'Neil, that's what it was. He was one of those. Denny O'Neil worked on it in the 80s, and if you're not aware with Denny O'Neil at all, he's renowned for basically his Batman run with Neil Adams. He's an awesome writer, and yeah, like I said, if you get the chance to pick this up, again, you won't regret it. I'm going to say that for every book here, but that's just because it's true. This book is awesome and very different from a lot of other books going on right now, because we don't have a lot of mystery books out there right now, especially from a big company like DC, and Prestige Plus just helps the art shine that much more. Alrighty, moving right along, we have X-Force issue number 1. Alright, so this is going to be the only Dawn of X book that's on this list, just because there was so many books I wanted to show, and I feel like, honestly, this is really the only one so far that is warranted being in my top 15. I love Dawn and House. They're actually, or Dawn and House and Powers, which they'll be coming up in just a little bit. But in terms of Dawn of X, we're still really early, only really on the 3rd or 4th issues of each issue, respectively. And I feel like so far the one that's advancing the story the most is X-Force. Everything else is a lot slower paced. But this, by Benjamin Percy, man, this book is awesome. If you haven't heard X-Force number 1, there's a big surprise at the end that a lot of people didn't see coming, myself included, especially not this early on. But do yourself a favor and pick this up. I'm not even going to tell you about what happens in this book. Read it. Seriously, just read it. I'm not spoiling a darn thing from this book for you. Read it. If you're going to read one Dawn of X book, read X-Force. That's all I'm going to say. X-Men's great, and Marauders is great. And honestly, I think the 3, if you want a whole picture, for the most part, a most complete, you can get without getting all 6. Get X-Force and X-Men. Marauders, maybe, but you don't need it. X-Force and X-Men, but mainly X-Force. Seriously. You're going to love it. If you have any at all for what's going on with Dawn of X, or you liked House and Powers, but you got overwhelmed with all 6 coming out, you don't need Fallen Angels. You don't need Excalibur. God, don't buy Excalibur, seriously. The only reason I'm getting it is because I'm stupid, and I want to get all of them. And you don't need New Mutants. I mean, you're going to be missing out if you don't get it, but because it's a fun story, but you don't need it. Like I said, X-Force, buy it. Plain and simple. Art's incredible. Story's beautiful. Now, our first indie book, I believe. Yeah, the first indie book on this list. Valiant, a more well-known indie company, but still indie. Valiant's new Bloodshot series coming out. I was a little hesitant, given that the movie's coming out next year. I didn't want it to be just hype. A lot of hype books just don't do well. I mean, look at Captain Marvel, or the Captain America books that came out around the time of, what was it, Winter Soldier, I think? Yeah, and then the Civil War books that came out around the hype of Civil War. Yeah, they typically don't do too well, but man, I'm telling you, the art, Brett Booth, oh my God. This is the most 90s art I have seen in a not 90s book. This, and in the best way possible. Not like Liefeld 90s, like Jim Lee 90s. Don't go off the cover. The cover is not the person that does it on the inside. I agree, the cover is god-awful. But the interior art, I mean, seriously, just look up a preview of this book. The art is amazing. Easily, probably my favorite artwork out of all the books on this list. Just because I'm a sucker for 90s artwork. And because that's kind of what I grew up with, because that's what my dad collected. So that's what I had the most exposure to when I was a kid. But we just don't get art like this anymore. So we're on the 3rd issue now. 4th issue's coming out in a few weeks. Pick this up. Seriously. This book is insanely good. The artwork, like I said, is definitely the star. But that's not to take away from Seeley's writing. This book is perfect. I'm a noob to Bloodshot, and I'm going to admit I'm getting into the hype around the movie. I bought his first appearances, first full, as you might have seen, and this is living up to every expectation. I'm seriously excited to see this on my pull list every time we get around. And that's number, I've gotten lost, 15, 14, 10. That's number 10. 10, 11. I can't count. 10. Yeah, number 10. Okay. Yeah, we're getting at around half an hour. And, yeah. So, I think I'm going to cut it here and do 9 through 1 and a part 2, which will be coming out tonight because, like I said, all the books are right here. So I'm going to come out with just 2-parters because it's a little easier to digest in smaller portions. I've only gone through like 6 books. This might end up having to be 3 parts. I'm doing my best. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to record part 2 and maybe 3, depending on how it goes. I'm going to try to shut up more in the next one and talk more about... Wait, that makes no sense. I'm going to shut up more and talk more. That's right. Good on me. But yeah, if you have heard of any of these books, if you were unaware of these books, or if maybe you had heard of them but weren't sure if the hype was warranted, for one, yes, it has been. 2, let me know down in the comments. Also, Bloodshot, pick it up, buy it, seriously. I know there's not a huge following for Valiant anymore, but this book is incredible, especially to get you in the mood for the movie, man, I'm telling you. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, record the next part. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next part. Take care.